31 on a Thursday morning, where we welcome in Steve and M. Sipple from On 3 and 93.7 The Ticket, and life in general. Very, very happy to hear that Cheddar's is going to be opening soon in the Omaha area. It is. Mr. Sipple, good morning.
Really? I'm surprised it hasn't been open already.
I know. I thought this appears to be a community that it would go over well.
Wait, what? We have a Cheddar's. We had a Cheddar's.
We do?
120th and L.
What am I thinking?
Okay.
Yeah, there's a Cheddar's.
120th and L.
Yeah, it's been there for a while.
Okay.
All right.
So,
All right, well,
come on down.
You got to have another one, and that's great because it's safe. It's just a safe spot, and you can count on it,
It's a very large menu.
Get you 20 points, 10 rebounds a game.
Like what? Yeah. But I know you love Cheddar's. Like, what's the next on that list of you're a place where you're not really sure, you can't really pronounce the name of that restaurant. You want to go to a place where you know what you're going to get. There's Applebee's, Cheddar's, and
okay. Let me think. Oh, well, it's standard Olive Garden. Which I enjoy. I just thoroughly enjoy. I never understand the people make fun of it, kind of, but I'm always like, well, I don't get it. It's really good. Like I like it every time, and I like the ambiance a lot. It's a very pleasant experience. It's pleasant.
Okay, I think it actually says it on its tagline.
Sip, I don't know if you remember this, but one of the first times that we ever did radio together in Lincoln, I was going on a date.
To Grisanti's?
No, Sip recommended Carlos O'Kelly's, and it's where we went.
You are kidding me.
No, I'm not. It was you, myself, and Schmitty. We were doing radio in Lincoln, and I had a date that night, and I was still on the fence on where we should go. And you said, "Hey, Carlos O'Kelly's is always good," and we did go there.
Pleasant.
We had a pleasant experience.
Yeah, it's pleasant. Carlos O'Kelly's was always safe. It's safe. Like you're not gonna be crazy. You know what's going on, and
Mountain of nachos.
God, that's amazing. I don't remember that.
I love that you said you're kidding.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
No, good.
It's one of my fond Sip memories.
I'm glad that worked out too.
It did. I mean, it's not the woman I ended up marrying, but it wasn't one of like the worst dates I ever had. And I can definitely tell you the reason it didn't work out had nothing to do with us going to Carlos O'Kelly's.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah. I know it was a sad day because I called you when I was driving in Lincoln on 27th, and I noticed that they were tearing down Carlos O'Kelly's.
Yeah, that was a hard time for me. I didn't understand it. It's one of those things I don't even like to.
You don't like to go back there.
In my mind. Yeah, it's one of those things that happen in your life and you just don't address.
The world just didn't make sense then.
And then it crops up and gets you later. So I hope that.
Thanks a lot, Gary.
Hey, let's talk recruiting for a little bit. I know that you are vehemently opposed to following recruiting 24/7, so you just limit it to like 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
The guys in the recruiting office aren't doom and gloom, and it's a process. But we had a big buildup to have a big month of June, and the bump from visits hasn't come yet. Maybe down the road. How would you sum up like where Nebraska is recruiting wise right now?
I think it's 11 players in the class. I actually, when they got Latif and they got Jamarian Parker, I thought there was an upswing. I thought they were going to get Dawson Merritt. I did. I did too. And I didn't think it was I didn't think it was a slam dunk. But I thought they were in pretty good position. And I thought that would have helped. Now they're swinging back on. I think to Pooh, that pendulum swung back.
He committed to Oregon State. Yep.
Yeah, and he decommitted. I'd say it would really help. I mean, just from my standpoint, just my personal opinion, if they got a couple offensive line players in this class, that would help my perception of it. But I'm okay. I think it's going to be a smaller class. I mean, how many freshmen do they have? I'm going to say 47 freshmen on the roster. It's a really young roster. So I don't think this class is going to be that big. The 11 players they got, I like. but I do think they, it could use some oomph, I guess is the best way to put it. It could use some bigs. That would be some oomph, some good bigs, and then just maybe a Michael Terry would be some oomph, right?
Yep.
So that's what I'd say. But I don't, it kind of scared me a little bit when TJ Lateef was on some other network talking him, kind of being wishy-washy, and then Brian Munson caught up with him, and it sounds like he's firm. That's important to me. All that stuff does matter, but I like it. I mean, if you just look at guy by guy, the 11 that are in there right now, I like what they have, but it just needs some oomph.
Well, and Gary said the exact same thing about having that big name that kind of creates that domino effect. And you mentioned a guy I wanted to ask you about with TJ Lateef, lead 11 guy, 4-star guy, and yet not nearly, and we get it, not nearly the same type of buzz and maybe the ability to help recruit and peer recruit like what we could see Dylan Raiola have that ability to do so. But you mentioned Brian Munson catching up with him. It sounds like he's at least trying to use now his commitment to Nebraska to bring in others. Does he have at least that ability, that quarterback position, in your opinion? Does he have that ability to maybe, if someone's on the fence about Nebraska, maybe that big heavy hitter that TJ Lateef is a guy, especially an offensive guy, is someone that could possibly sway them towards Nebraska?
Well, he's the highest rated player in the class. That helps. He's not a super high profile quarterback nationally, but he has some profile, and I think going to the Elite 11 helps him in that regard. I don't know his personality, so that's a key component of that conversation. I don't know what he's like, but he seems to be very, I will say this is what I've read. He's leadership oriented. I mean, and not all quarterbacks are, or let's put it this way, some more than others, some to a higher degree than others. And he seems like he's about that. There's a maturity that he has that I like, in the sense that he went to the Elite 11 to better himself. He was very vocal about that, and he explained it really well. I want to get better. I'm going there to get better as a quarterback, to experience this atmosphere of being around great quarterbacks and getting instruction and then walking out of there better. That all sounded good to me. And his interview with Munson sounded like he was fine. He was recruiting on behalf of Nebraska. He talked about how his family was very Nebraska oriented, that it was a family decision. They reached the decision as a family. That just sounds solid. Now, in this world, and as you guys know, kids waver. It gets funky sometimes with some, not all. NIL now is sometimes you wonder if this is just a leverage play. That happens. So it's all kind of part of it. And I don't get too wrapped up in that. Although I did notice, I noticed what he said, and then I noticed what Brian reported. So you just got to see where it goes, because that's important. He's your quarterback.
Yeah.
To me, it's not a trivial conversation if he's wavering. I would never say that. Now, I also understand, and I'm starting to understand recruiting more, because working for a recruiting website, you naturally learn more. There is a feeling that I didn't understand as much, as that QBs are a little dime a dozen. I mean, if you lose one, you can move on to another one and not feel too bad. Now, time of year is a factor in that too, though. You got to get them early, is what I'm saying.
What are you hearing on? Because he really has not talked a lot since he even entered the portal back in April, but he was here this past weekend. What's your intel tell you about Sayer White? Right, the
right. Yeah, we're a little confused on 3 Husker Online. I thought this would be done, and now you can't get a hold of him. So I don't know what to say. I thought it would be done by now. Our stories are written. I mean, I don't know. I just know that from what we had heard, that he had only visited one place, only planned one visit. That was Nebraska. So I don't know if someone else has entered the picture or if he's just waiting. Sometimes they just wait for certain things to happen in their lives to announce.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Today's Thursday though, and I thought it'd be done on Monday.
Is he a day one starter, or is he a day
I'd
one?
never say that. No, I wouldn't say that. I think he's got to come in and compete. And there's some pretty good players there. Jeremiah Charles and Hartzog is a proven player now. And then Dwight Boodle is in that conversation.
Going to be a dog.
Yeah. So no, I don't look at it that way.
So,
he does have 11 starts at USC, which is good, but he wasn't perfect himself.
Yeah, he's not. I remember I was intrigued by Tyreek Johnson because he was really good out of high school.
Yeah.
Couldn't get on the field at Ohio State. He came here, and I don't know that Travis Fisher could get rid of him quicker. He stuck around, but I'm a little hesitant on 4-star guys that are in the portal that have played. But he definitely. I mean, they need options at that position. I want to insert somebody. I do believe that this will be a bounce back year for Malcolm Hartzog.
Well, yeah, I hope so. I mean, he wasn't that bad last year. I think mainly bigger receivers was an issue probably, but he's a good safety and he's a good football player. I hate to call it a bounce back year because I don't think he was that bad, but I see I get where you're going. So it all feeds into that conversation of Sierra Wright. Does he just come in and take that job? I don't know. I mean, there's players there that are pretty good right now, and then maybe I picked up on this from the head coach a little bit, but you can't just write off guys in the program, and you can't even write off guys who have struggled because, as you see, with Tommy Hill, he did bounce back. I mean, guys do develop. That's what I try to say. I say it a lot. Players develop. They evolve. Sometimes the evolution, there's a dip and then they come back stronger. I'm not writing guys off as quickly as some people do.
I think that's a good point but I think that's different with Rule's staff. Like under Scott's staff, like if a guy didn't play right away, man, I took him off my man cave big board. But I'll give you an example. I'm glad you brought that up because there are some guys that had promise when they walked onto campus that haven't hit the field and you're wondering, are they still in the program? I'll tell you who that guy is, Sip. That might be a guy like Kobe Bretz.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. He's in a tough – I mean, they're so loaded back there. Sometimes guys get a little lost because of that. There's so many – I mean, I think Cooper has 23 defensive backs. So – and they're good. I mean, there's a lot of good players back there. And he's shuffled behind some guys like Singleton, right, and Buford and Gifford. I mean, those are the guys that come readily to mind, right? Brett's, he's a safety, right?
Yeah.
Well, think of the safeties in the program right now. They got a lot of them. They're good. So he's shuffled back a little bit, but that doesn't mean he's shuffled out. Sometimes it takes a little bit, 3 years sometimes in the program, maybe 4 years. It's not the end of the world, especially if they're playing special teams and they got good attitudes.
I'm glad you mentioned Tommy Hill because we continue to see him be talked about a lot in the secondary for this defense that a lot of people obviously are high on. He's rightfully so. What is, in your opinion, if Tommy Hill is to put himself in a potential all Big Ten type of conversation, what do you need to see out of Tommy Hill in 2024?
Well, he's really explosive. You just want to see consistency.
Mm-hmm.
At really any position, it's especially when you're talking about a player with his level of athleticism, and he's pretty explosive. I always thought that when he was returning kickoffs, he never really broke anything. He didn't have a lot of success, but man, he looked explosive. He's explosive. He's a great attitude guy. He wants to be a pro player. I remember talking to him right when he got here. We were doing interviews in the summer then. And he was very intent on being a professional football player. And so I always thought he'll be okay. Even when he was I kind of went through that period where they moved him to receiver and things weren't going well. I always thought he'd come out of it. He did. But consistency, I'd say, because he's going to be, he's going to be sound. He knows what he's doing technically. He understands the game at a high level. So just be there week to week and do your thing. And I think then he will, I don't know if he'll be all Big Ten, but he'll be a very good player.
Hey, there's the resolution that was passed that we've talked about in the past and kind of knew this was going to happen. So they can expand the number of people that are on field coaching, which I think for young coaches that just need that break and experience, some head coaches will give it to those younger coaches that help them get a full-time job. I think this can be really good. It's up against limiting rosters, but let's keep it separate here just on the coaches. Nebraska has a really good collection, Sip. You know this. I'm not telling you anything new, but this is kind of our conversation. They have a really good collection of analysts. Now, a few of those guys came with Tony White from Syracuse, and I like a guy like Kevin McGarry, I think is really good. Then they have, what's his name? Aaron Cooling, who has helped Raiola on the offensive line. Even Josh Martin, who all of a sudden at the last minute became the tight ends coach, and now he's still there as an analyst. Do you see Rule adding to that room of on-field coaches, or do you think what they have is what they're going to stick with?
I think largely it'll be what they have. Now, I don't, it's kind of a hole in my game right now. I don't have a great feel for what Matt Rule has in mind, except just based on comments he's made over the last few months. And those comments suggest that I think most of this will occur in-house. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean they won't bring in somebody, but I haven't heard anything like that. I mean, they had Holgerson here in town. Yeah. I mean, Holgerson spent an appreciable amount of time, Dana Holgerson. He's not working. I wonder where that is. I wonder if that's still a thought. I mean, he was here. There's no doubt about it. He spent a lot of time on a weekend. There's no doubt about that. But he's not working. So could that reemerge? I've heard nothing to suggest that. I think largely it's an in-house conversation. Rule does feel strongly about the guys he has in-house. There's not. I don't want to name names because I don't know who it exactly would be, and I don't even know what his overall plan is.
Yeah,
that's something we're going to have to figure out. And I wonder if we'll have to wait until Big Ten Media Days on that.
That's a good question. Put it in the notebook to ask.
Yeah, really good.
Have a good weekend. We missed you at the College World Series, but we held it anyhow.
Yeah, you did it, and it was good. I'm glad everybody enjoyed it. Go Vols.
Hey, one other quick thing. Right. What was the name of the guy that got drafted first overall in the NBA draft last night?
I don't know. Rasharshi or something. I don't know.
That's pretty good.
That's correct. Close enough.
Rasharshi.
All right. Love you, my man.
All right. See you later.
All right. That's Stephen M. Sipple. I will